I wore my father's silver ring around my neck for 20 years, never knowing its true meaning. Then one afternoon in Miami, I saw a billionaire wearing the exact same ring. When I pulled mine out, his face went pale. "Where did you get that?" he whispered. "It was my father's," I said. He stepped back like I'd struck him. "Who was your father?" That question shattered everything I thought I knew about my life, my past, and the family I never knew I had. The elevator doors opened on the 4th floor of our Miami office building, and I nearly crashed into Sarah, our receptionist. Her eyes were wide with panic. "Mary, thank God. They're here early." My stomach dropped. "Armstrong?" "Michael Armstrong himself." She nodded frantically. "Gregory's losing his mind." I didn't have time to think. I dropped my bag on the nearest chair and sprinted toward the conference room. Through the glass walls, I could see Gregory pacing like a caged animal. This was it. The biggest pitch in our firm's history. $50 million for the new Armstrong Technologies headquarters. If we landed this project, everything would change for Coastal Design Studio. Lauren was pulling up files on her laptop, her fingers flying across the keyboard. Tyler adjusted the projector for the 3rd time, his hands shaking slightly. Gregory's voice cut through the chaos. "Mary. Water, coffee, make sure everything works. Now." I moved on autopilot. Water glasses arranged perfectly. Coffee brewing. Projector tested. All in under 3 minutes. My heart hammered against my ribs, and I could feel the weight of the silver ring beneath my blouse, resting against my chest like it always did. My father's ring. The only thing I had left of him besides fading memories and a laugh I could barely recall. "They're coming up." Sarah's voice crackled through my earpiece. The elevator chimed. 4 people stepped out. 3 men in dark, expensive suits, and 1 man who commanded attention without saying a word. Michael Armstrong. I'd spent hours researching him after we got this meeting. 54 years old. MIT graduate. Founded Armstrong Technologies 26 years ago. Net worth $4.2 billion. Never married. Notoriously private. The kind of man who built empires while the rest of us built dreams. But seeing him in person was different. He was tall, maybe 6'2", with salt and pepper hair that looked professionally styled but not overly so. Sharp features. Dark, intense eyes that seemed to absorb everything in a single glance. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than 6 months of my rent. "Mr. Armstrong," I said, stepping forward with what I hoped was a confident smile. "Welcome to Coastal Design Studio. I'm Mary Jensen." "Thank you, Mary." His voice was deep, measured. Professional. I led them down the hallway to our main conference room, the one with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Biscayne Bay. Miami's skyline glittered in the afternoon sun. I poured water into crystal glasses, made sure everyone had what they needed, then took my seat in the corner with my laptop open, ready to take notes and stay invisible. The presentation began. Lauren walked them through our portfolio with practiced ease. Our design philosophy centered on creating spaces that felt both modern and timeless, functional yet beautiful. Michael listened intently, his dark eyes following every slide, every gesture. He asked questions that showed he understood architecture on a deep level. Technical questions about materials, sustainability, structural integrity. This wasn't just a rich man throwing money around. He cared about the details. Tyler presented the preliminary concepts. A 5-story building with clean lines, glass and steel, open floor plans designed to flood every space with natural light. Michael leaned forward, studying the renderings carefully. "I like the open concept," he said, his finger tracing the lines on the screen. "But I want quiet spaces too. Private areas where people can think. Not everything should be collaborative." "Absolutely," Lauren responded smoothly. "We can incorporate private offices, meditation rooms, quiet zones throughout the building." The meeting stretched to 90 minutes. By the end, Gregory's face had shifted from panic to cautious optimism. Michael stood, buttoning his suit jacket with precise movements. "We'll review the full proposal and get back to you within 2 weeks," he said, shaking hands with everyone around the table. I walked them to the elevator, staying professional, keeping my distance. Michael was the last to step inside. He turned back, and for just a moment, his eyes met mine. "Thank you, Mary. Just doing my job, Mr. Armstrong. The elevator doors slid closed. I exhaled for what felt like the first time in 2 hours. I walked back to the conference room to clean up. Straightening chairs. Collecting water glasses. My hands moved automatically while my mind replayed every moment of the meeting. Had we done enough? Was the design too bold? Not bold enough? Gregory would obsess over every detail for the next 2 weeks. That's when I saw it. A pen lying on the polished table where Michael Armstrong had been sitting. Matte black. Expensive. The kind of pen that cost more than my weekly grocery budget. I picked it up, feeling the weight of it in my hand, and turned toward the door to set it aside for return. Michael Armstrong was standing in the doorway. My breath caught. How long had he been there? Sorry, he said, his voice softer than before. I left my pen. Your pen. I held it up, walked toward him. Of course. He moved into the room, closing the distance between us. Extended his hand to take the pen. And that's when my world stopped spinning. On his right hand, fourth finger. A silver ring. Geometric engravings that I would recognize anywhere, in any light, under any circumstances. The same pattern I'd traced with my fingers 1,000 times. The same design I'd memorized as a child. My heart slammed against my ribs. Time slowed to a crawl. Without thinking, without planning, my hand moved to my neck. I pulled the chain out from under my blouse. The silver ring dangled in the space between us, catching the Miami sunlight streaming through the windows. Identical to his. Michael's eyes followed the movement. Locked onto the ring. And the color drained from his face like someone had pulled a plug. He stared, not at me, but at the ring hanging from my neck. His lips parted slightly. His hand holding the pen trembled. Where did you get that? His voice was barely above a whisper, rough with something I couldn't name. Shock. Disbelief. Fear. It was my father's, I said. My own voice sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else. He looked up at me then. Really looked at me. And I saw tears forming in his dark eyes. Who was your father? His name was Robert. The words felt heavy. Robert Jensen. Michael took a step back. Actually physically recoiled like I'd slapped him. Oh my God. His hand came up to his mouth. He closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, tears spilled down his cheeks. A billionaire crying in our conference room. Mary. Mary Jensen. Yes. My voice shook. That's me. Do you know me? I held you when you were 3 hours old. The words came out broken, raw. I'm your godfather. I made a promise to your father 30 years ago, and I've been trying to keep it ever since. The room tilted. I gripped the back of the nearest chair to keep from falling. I don't understand. Your father and I were best friends. Michael's voice cracked. More than that. We were brothers. And I've been looking for you for 16 years. I couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. The ring felt like it weighed 100 pounds against my chest. I need to explain, he said, taking a shaky breath, trying to compose himself. But not here. Please, let me take you somewhere we can talk properly. I'm working. I can't just leave. The words sounded stupid even as I said them. The world was falling apart, and I was worried about my job. When does your shift end? 6. I'll wait. He pulled out his phone, typed something quickly. There's a coffee shop 2 blocks south. Marina Brew. Please, Mary. Please give me a chance to explain. I looked at him. At the tears streaking his face. At the ring on his finger that matched mine. At the desperation in his eyes. This man, this stranger who was supposedly my godfather. Who claimed to have known my father. Who had been looking for me. Okay, I whispered. 6 o'clock. He nodded, unable to speak, and walked out without another word. I stood alone in the empty conference room, my hand clutching my father's ring so tightly the edges bit into my palm. My heart raced. My thoughts scattered in 1,000 directions. What the hell just happened? Who was Michael Armstrong really? And why had my mother never, not once in 28 years, mentioned him? The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur. I answered emails without reading them. Filed documents in the wrong folders. Stared at my computer screen, seeing nothing. Sarah asked if I was okay 3 times. I lied 3 times. By 5:30, I couldn't wait anymore. I grabbed my bag, told Gregory the first wasn't feeling well, and walked out into the Miami heat. The 2 blocks to Marina Brew felt like 2 miles. My legs felt weak. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Michael was already there when I pushed through the door. Corner table, away from the windows. 2 lattes waiting, still steaming. He stood when he saw me, then sat back down quickly, nervously. Like he was afraid I might run. I sat across from him. Stared at the latte I hadn't asked for. Your father's full name was Robert James Jensen, he said without preamble, without small talk. His voice was steady now, practiced. Like he'd rehearsed this speech 1,000 times. Born in Portland, Maine. Parents died when he was 16. Raised by his grandmother. Full scholarship to MIT. We met junior year. Architecture Society. I stared at him. Everything he said was true. Things only someone who knew my father would know. Please, I said quietly. Keep going. Robert was my best friend. My brother. The only family I had. Michael's hands wrapped around his coffee cup, knuckles white. When your father died, I tried to help. I offered money, support, anything your mother needed. But she refused. Every single time. She said she didn't want charity, that she could handle it alone. So you just left? The accusation came out sharper than I intended. No. He looked wounded. I kept trying for 4 years. Called. Sent letters. Your mother refused every time. She got angry at my attempts. Then she remarried, changed your name to Henderson, moved to Fort Lauderdale. I gave up for a while. His voice dropped. I'm not proud of that. But I kept trying to reach her over the years. Every few months. Every year. Nothing. Why does any of this matter? I asked. My father is dead. He's been dead for 22 years. Because I made a promise. Michael held up his right hand, showed me the ring on his finger. The silver caught the light, geometric patterns glinting. December 1994. Your father and I were 22 years old. Both orphans. Both alone in the world. We made a pact that night. We'd never be alone again. We'd be brothers. If one of us died, the other would take care of the family left behind. He paused, his throat working as he swallowed hard. We exchanged rings that night. This ring I'm wearing, it's Robert's. He gave it to me. I gave him mine. His eyes met mine, pleading for understanding. The promise was sealed with these rings. I pulled my chain out, looked at the silver band hanging there. The weight I'd carried for 20 years without understanding its meaning. So this was yours? Yes. His voice broke. Robert wore my ring. You wear my ring. I wear his. It's how we bound ourselves to each other. How we made sure neither of us would ever be truly alone again. The enormity of it crashed over me like a wave. This wasn't just my father's ring. It was a promise made between 2 orphaned boys who'd found family in each other. A vow that transcended death itself. Why didn't my mother tell me? The question came out as barely more than a whisper. Why didn't she ever mention you? Not once. Not a single time. I don't know. Michael's voice was thick with old pain. Maybe she wanted to forget. Maybe seeing me reminded her too much of Robert. Maybe she was protecting herself the only way she knew how. I tried to respect her wishes, but staying away from you felt wrong. Reaching out directly without her blessing seemed like a betrayal. I stood up too fast. The chair scraped loudly against the floor. Several people at nearby tables looked over. I need to go. Wait, Mary, please. I don't know you. My voice shook. I don't know why my mother never mentioned you, but she had her reasons. And I trust her more than I trust a stranger with a matching ring. Mary, please. He stood too, reaching toward me but not touching. Give me a chance to. Thank you for the coffee. I walked out, pushed through the door into the humid Miami evening. Walked fast, my heels clicking on the sidewalk. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Everything I thought I knew about my life, my father, my mother, was dissolving like sand through my fingers. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in my small apartment in Coral Gables, staring at the ceiling, the ring clutched in my fist. The air conditioner hummed. Traffic sounds filtered through the windows. And I couldn't stop thinking about Michael's tears. The pain in his eyes. The way he'd said my name like it was something precious. At 2 in the morning, I got up. Opened the wooden box where I kept my parents' things. Photos, old birthday cards, my father's sketches on napkins. And at the bottom, a sealed envelope. My mother's handwriting, shaky from the illness that would take her. For Mary. When you're ready. I'd carried this envelope for 2 years. Never opened it. Never felt ready. Tonight, I tore it open. Inside, a letter and a photograph. The photo showed 2 young men at MIT, both wearing rings on their right hands, both grinning at the camera with the careless confidence of youth. One was my father, unmistakably. Dark hair, bright eyes, that smile I barely remembered. The other was Michael Armstrong, 26 years younger but still recognizable. My hands trembled as I unfolded the letter. My dearest Mary, I'm writing this while I still have the strength. There are many choices I regret, but one haunts me more than the others. The way I pushed Michael out of our lives. Your father and Michael were brothers in every way that mattered. When Robert died, Michael tried to help us. He offered everything he had. But I couldn't accept it. Every time I looked at Michael, I saw Robert, and it hurt too much. I had to stop reading. Tears blurred the words. 3 years have passed since that afternoon when I saw a billionaire wearing my father's ring. 3 years since my entire world shifted on its axis. I'm sitting in my office now. Pierce Design Studio. My own firm. 6 employees. Projects across Miami and Fort Lauderdale. We design restaurants, hotels, office buildings, homes. Nothing massive, but everything built with intention, with beauty, with the kind of vision my father would have understood. On my desk sits a photograph. 2 young men at MIT, brothers by choice, wearing each other's rings. Next to it, a newer photo from last month. 12 people gathered in Michael's penthouse overlooking Biscayne Bay. The Architecture Society reunion. 11 members from my father's class at MIT, brilliant people who've become my family, and me in the center. Michael and I have coffee every Thursday. Without fail. He was the first person I called after my first date with James, my boyfriend. He walked me through every major business decision. He stood beside me when I graduated with my degree 2 years ago, finishing what my mother's illness had interrupted. I'm not rich. I'm not famous. But I'm building something my father would recognize. Something that matters. I wear 2 rings now. One on my right hand, the silver band with geometric engravings that was Michael's, that my father wore, that I've carried for 20 years. One on my left hand, my own Architecture Society ring, custom-made, engraved inside with Mary Jensen, Robert's legacy. My mother's letter explained everything. How Michael had been there from the day I was born. How he'd called me Little Mary Bear. How he'd filled my childhood with books and laughter and Sunday barbecues. How losing my father had destroyed him, and how my mother, drowning in her own grief, had pushed away the one person who loved Robert as much as she did. She was wrong to do it. She knew she was wrong. And in her final months, she'd wanted me to find him. To let him keep his promise. I look at the rings on my fingers. Physical proof that some promises outlive death. That family isn't always about blood. That love can survive decades of silence and loss and pain. My father died when I was 6. But his story didn't end that December day in 1996. This is my story of triumph. Do you think I handled it correctly? If you were in my shoes, what would you have done? Share your thoughts in the comments. I can't wait to hear your perspective. Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to Memorable Stories and Overcoming, where we share inspiring stories of triumph and justice every single day.